we have digitized 5.4 million human sniffs. So that's hundreds of people across the globe sitting down, smelling something in a very careful, structured environment where they're smelling something, they're writing down what they smell. 5.4 million of those. And that's really the basis. Is we've been super careful about how we collect data. We've been super careful about how we organize it, and then we've just done it a lot.
That is Alex Wiltschko, founder and CEO of olfactory intelligence platform Osmo. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Create Tomorrow podcast. I'm your host, Cassandra Napoli, head of consumer forecasting at WGSN. Every 2 weeks, I will take you on a journey to examine how trends are translated into aesthetics and product design. In this episode, Alex and I explore how AI is giving consumers a sense of smell, what it means to digitize scent, and how olfactory technology could transform everything from storytelling and retail to communication, design, and the future of multisensory experiences. Alex, welcome to the Create Tomorrow podcast. Can you please tell our listeners a bit about who you are, what you do, and your career journey so far as well?
Sure thing. Well, Cassandra, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. So my name's Alex Wiltschko. I'm the founder and CEO of Osmo. Our mission is to give computers a sense of smell. And I've been working in trying to understand the mysteries of scent, like why is it so powerful? Why does it form such incredible memories instantly? I've been working on that for about 20 years. So I started as a scientist in academia. I did my PhD at Harvard in olfactory neuroscience, and I went there because that's just where the most smell people were, still are. And my neuroscience mentor trained under Richard Axel, who got the Nobel Prize for discovering the receptors of smell. And my AI mentor trained under Jeff Hinton, who got the Nobel Prize for deep learning. Jeff is on our scientific advisory board, and I consider him a mentor. And I've just been that one weirdo at the intersection of those two things, of our sense of smell and of artificial intelligence and computation. I've also been collecting perfumes for quite some time. I don't have an incredible collection, but it was a fascination of mine since when I was 12. So um, some big bottles that I could afford when I was really young, and then a lot of samples just to try everything possible. But I've been really into both the art and the science of fragrance for decades now.
So, what is the problem that Osmo is trying to solve then? So, you operate at this sort of intersection between scent and AI, maybe. Where does Osmo come into that?
So the long-term mission is really to smell the whole world, right? To try to understand what everything smells like and make that information useful. And then to be able to also then replay those smells so that you can re-experience them, or you can create a moment or beauty or add another layer to media that you'd like to experience. And I'm kind of inspired by what a flower and what a dog can do. A flower can create a scent and you instantly can experience a feeling, and from just one time smelling it, you can remember it your entire life. That's what's really powerful about smell. And a dog can find a scent that can be life-saving sometimes. They can find people trapped in rubble. They can find people with diseases and catch it early. They can find whether or not their owner has low blood sugar and needs to take their medication. So these are really, really powerful aspects of scent, and we don't really have access to that. And so that's the ultimate mission. And we're starting kind of in this arc of design, then detect, and then eventually diagnose. We're starting in design, and the reason we're doing that is there's a really great business to be built there, just very transparently. It's accretive to our mission, helps us actually achieve our mission, because making a lot of interesting smells teaches us about smell. And like, it just so happens that nature reuses smells in all kinds of crazy ways, so that if we learn about beautiful smells and flowers, we actually do, in a deep way, learn about the smells of our own health and of wellness and of disease and of opportunity and danger. Yeah. And just really concretely, what we do as a business is we design and manufacture fragrances for brands. And so if you're launching a fragrance brand, if you already have one, or if you're thinking about launching one, come talk to us. And the way it works is we'll use human expertise, perfumery, as well as artificial intelligence to design a really beautiful smell that's on trend. We'll do it super fast so we don't miss the trend, and it will be data driven. So we'll know a lot about your consumer. You'll tell us, right? Like, here's who I want to, sell to. Here's how I want to target, and we'll design something that's perfectly targeted for them, which is something that nobody in the industry can do.
At WGSN, we have forecasted this idea of unserious everything. Anything serious is out, anything unserious is in. So we say in a world of overwhelming stress and tension, consumers are looking for powerful tools for emotional release and a moment of self care. Unserious is the evolution of glimmers, which, if you've been with us for a while, you will have heard glimmers at some point in our trend forecasts. And we are sort of going one step further into the subversive, irreverent, the laugh out loud, and unseriousness comes into play here. Can you tell us how you've translated unserious everything into a smell?
Now, what's really interesting about this collaboration is unserious everything doesn't inherently have a smell. It's not like unserious rose or unserious, musk or unserious sandalwood. Um, so what we did is we took that trend concept and we entered it into basically it's the chat GPT for fragrance, right? We call it Osmo Studio. So we put this kind of trend and brief into Osmo Studio, and we created a whole bunch of different directions. And what we got out were these like incredible concepts that were very specific. Um, and well, I mean, one of my favorite one was just it's like a beautiful like almost like reaching your hand into a bag of gummy bears and just like taking a bite, like irrespective of what the flavor is or the color is. So it was like this really just like fun, sweet gummy bear thing. Another concept that we came up with was the scent of pimple patches, right? Which is like celebrating imperfection. And like, I mean, I think that's very unserious, everything. And the scent was so good. I mean, there was like an actual hint of Band-Aid in there, which was like kind of fun and alluring. But then there's also some like sweetness and glitter and sparkle to it as well, which was really, really cool. And we had a few other ones of these, but what we basically did is we took the concept as words and it's like, hey, let's write out what this trend is, what this concept is, and we put it into Studio, and we started creating scents that were inspired just by the idea. And that's really the power of what we've been able to do with AI for scent, which we call olfactory intelligence. But we can turn anything into scent in a way that's really faithful and really authentic and like also beautiful and smells good.
So interesting. And how did that materialize? Did you actually come up with a scent in the end that people could smell?
Oh, absolutely. We came up with a few, and what we did is at the kind of the culmination of our collaboration, we had a scent salon, and so we invited a select group of people to come into Manhattan into a special curated space to actually smell and experience these scents one by one. It was a beautiful space. We actually had each scent under a cloche, which is like a glass bell jar, and so you lift this glass bell jar and you smell it, and you experience this like this moment of weird, this moment of unseriousness. I mean, we had like a girl pickle dinner smell. We had this pimple patch smell. We had a few other ones, and they were each just like these little moments of delight. And it was really fun watching people experience it for the first time because like it just every time it was an instant smile and like a little bit of levity and lightness, which I just really enjoyed kind of watching that wash over people. It was super beautiful.
Yeah, I saw a lot of images and content, and I talked to the beauty team afterwards, and they said it was just so much fun to kind of
Yeah, we
bring
had
that
we
to
had a
life,
blast.
which
It
is,
was it
yeah.
was so cool. It was so cool.
So, scent is kind of one of the final two frontiers, I think, of technology. Like, I've been writing about multisensory design for the past decade, basically. And I think scent and taste are kind of the final two frontiers, right? Because you can't generally smell through a computer, you can't really taste. There are some projects and kind of innovations coming out that are um, potentially making that a reality for some people. But do you see olfactory AI as the sort of beginning, maybe, of a more multisensory design future for the internet?
Um, I think having it directly on your laptop or your phone is going to take some time. And the reason is just technology sometimes takes a while to get small, but it always gets small. So the device that we use to actually detect smell, kind of our scent camera, is actually the size of a dishwasher, and it really has to be in our laboratory. And the device that we use to print smell and actually to make the smells that folks experienced at our scent salon, that device is about the size of a school bus. It's like a big industrial printer of smell. Just kinda think of, like, how they print newspapers or, like, really, really big signs. It's like a big industrial printer. That's basically what we have. That can definitely get smaller, and it will, but we really want it to work well end to end given the current technology. And then eventually what's gonna happen is, like, the scent detector is gonna go from a dishwasher to a shoebox, and then from a shoebox to a matchbox, and from a matchbox to an AirPods case and onwards. We don't know where it's gonna end. And then the scent printer is gonna go from, and we're already working on this, it's gonna go from something the size of a school bus to something that's the size of a dishwasher, and it's gonna follow in that same trend line. Um, and at every step, we need to make sure, at least, as we're building Osmo, that, like, we're doing something delightful and beautiful and useful, and successful with the technology as it is today.
How do you train a model on something as subjective and maybe emotional as smell, though?
Yeah, it's really interesting because that used to be how we thought about color. Right? So in the 1910s and 1920s, the notion that color could be objective was actually, like, pretty controversial. And there were some experiments that were done in the late 20s called the Wright Guild experiments that gave us the RGB, like that color triangle, where you can basically name any color and mix them and, like, do math on color basically, and, like, gives us these beautiful displays where, like, your, taupe and orange and red are the same as mine roughly. Um, so we kind of won the battle against subjectivity in color by thinking really carefully and, like, hey, look, it took hundreds of years, right? And in scent is more emotional. It for sure is. It's more emotional, it's more bound to memory, and there's, like, reasons in the brain why it's, like, wired up that way, and it is different. But what we found is that, you can be somewhat objective about smell. You can train people how to talk about smell. In the same way that a sommelier gets trained over many years how to, identify certain notes, we collect huge amounts of data. Like, we have digitized 5.4 million human sniffs. So that's hundreds of people across the globe sitting down, smelling something in a very careful, structured environment where they're smelling something, they're writing down what they smell, 5.4 million of those. And that's really the basis, is we've been super careful about how we collect data, we've been super careful about how we organize it, and then we've just done it a lot, right? And I think that's pretty cool.
It sounds like smell is becoming programmable almost, right? Maybe the way
I
that
love the way that you're saying that. That's super cool. Yeah.
yeah, maybe the way that, like, I don't know, what comes to mind is like images or music or, language are all programmable. Like, do you think that there'll be a future where we as consumers will basically exchange digital sense in the way that we do visuals and audio right now?
When we're talking on our devices right now, we're working on, looking at the displays, there's tiny cameras. These cameras used to be huge, right? The size of our heads, right? And the displays used to be the size of, entire, phone booths. And we got them smaller over time. And then we made them work better, be cheaper, more pervasive. And then all of a sudden we can have things like, a podcast recording where we're talking to each other basically live in different parts of the world. So we will get there. I think it'll be invisible to folks mostly, which is like, "Oh, there's more beautiful scents on the shelves," right? Like, you can go to Target right now and buy products that have our AI design scents in them, right? So it's like it's a live, active thing. Like, we're in the market, we're making beautiful smells. You can go online, buy products with their smells in them too. So I think it's like it's gonna be invisible for a while, which is like, wow, things smell better. Why is that? Things are more interesting. There's, like, more joy in, like, the products. It doesn't all smell the same. And then, like, there's gonna be products over time that come out, like, "What I can make a smell, like a 3D printer in my home or like a printer in my home." These things will kinda roll out over time. It will take a while. Like, we're really hyper focused on our first business, which is designing and manufacturing smell for brands, but, like, we've got the seeds of something really, really special here.
I want to talk about Osmo's scent teleportation technology, which captures, digitizes, and recreates smells remotely, potentially, in my opinion, redefining commerce and communication in the years ahead. Can you walk us through that?
Sure. So that was the first big scientific milestone that Osmo hit. In fact, it was our focus, for the first stage of the company. The idea is this, like, if if we're digitizing our sense of smell, one thing that has to happen is we have to be able to take a real smell in one location, digitally encode it, so, like, save it, just like you take a picture with a digital camera, save it, transmit it, and then we're gonna have to reprint it or replay it in some other location just like you display it on display or print it on a printer. If we can't do that, and if the inputs and the outputs don't smell the same, like we can't really achieve our mission. So we have to be able to take a scent in one location and recreate it in another using no human intervention. It has to happen in an automated and digital way. We're going to have to use AI to do it. So that was the challenge that we set to ourselves, and we worked on it in a really concerted way for a while. And it was a really miraculous day to me when it actually worked because the team gave me a bunch of amber vials, so they were kind of you couldn't see through them. All I could do was smell the tops of them, and so I picked a few smells. And the first one that I picked was this. It smelled like a fresh cut summer plum. I learned later that it was. Like like when plums are still firm and like they kind of have a snap when you bite into them, and they're like a little bit kind of tannic. That it was like that. It was like a perfect plum. And we put it into this dishwasher-sized scent reader called a mass spectrometer, like I told you about before. And we took the physical scent and we actually turned it into numbers. We turned it into a file, right? Like a kind of like a JPEG, basically, but for smell. And then we sent that JPEG to the cloud and we processed it and analyzed it, enhanced it. And then we sent that to our scent printer on the other side of the lab. And the robot turned on and it basically, sucked up different kind of quote inks, but they were actually individual scent ingredients. And it mixed them together in the perfect ratios. Then we took this vial off of the robot and we smelled it, and it was like, oh my God, this is exactly like biting into this plum. We like captured not just like plum in general, but like this specific moment of biting into a fresh summer plum. And it was a really beautiful moment. Um, and that really told us like this is going to work, right? Like this whole crazy mission of digitizing our sense of smell is going to work. And now we do that kind of thing routinely, right? We use that technology to understand um, sense of the world that people think are beautiful. We use it to understand market products so that we can basically build other beautiful market products. And so this is something that's like kind of core and routine to what we do now. But it was a truly breakthrough moment when we first did it.
Wow. I imagine that this could also be done on like a one-to-one level. Like imagine somebody's loved one was no longer here, but they wanted to kind of recreate their sense of their scent that they would have.
I think that's so beautiful, and that's a really, really, really important future product to me. Because I have a young daughter. I think she smells beautiful. Her hair smells beautiful, and I've lost people that I love, and I can remember their smell very vividly. And I wish I could like kind of I think I would cry if I smelled that smell and looked at their picture at the same time, because I can kinda conjure that, but it doesn't hit you like a ton of bricks until you actually smell it. I think it's really powerful. There's still more science to be done there. Like we as a species don't fully understand why we smell the way that we do. It sounds crazy, right? To like be in the year 2026 and like not know something scientifically, but like something as simple as like why does it smell so good to hug my mom? Or why does it smell so good to bury my face in my wife's shirt? Or why does it smell so good to, kiss my daughter? We don't know the answer to that, which is crazy. But like that's the whole reason that Osmo exists is to try to peel back some of those mysteries and then turn them into like actual like lived moments for people through products in the world.
I think a lot of the time at WGSN, we kind of are navigating this world between the human and the machine, right? We have loads of trends and concepts, big ideas that speak to this idea of like human and tech symbiosis and the human premium and the humanist new luxury. I want to ask what becomes of the actual human perfumer in this reality where AI is able to sort of interpret at greater speed and tenacity.
So, we think about this a lot, and like we is, you know, osmonauts at the company, which includes perfumers, right? So, like, we are figuring this out. Like, what does it mean to have a new tool? Or what does it mean for an artist, a painter, to have a new color of paint? Um, an example which I love from a book that if you could like art history, you should read the book called Bright Earth. It's about the history of color, which sounds kind of boring. It's like, oh, paints, colors, dyes. Like,
Not
no,
for a trend
super,
forecaster.
super, super, super fascinating. Um, Van Gogh. I mean, do you know the picture Starry Night? Really famous picture. right? So it's like of a scene in Europe, and there's swirling clouds and stars, and there's these beautiful blues and yellows that kind of really make it pop. And also Van Gogh's known for his use of amazing yellows and blues. Those colors were recently invented when Van Gogh was painting, right? So Van Gogh was at the edge of like paint technology, and he was making and buying his own colors to be able to express himself better. And that's how I think of tools in the context of creativity is when a new tool comes online, the very best reach for it to see how it can expand their horizons. And that's what we're seeing. So Osmo Studio and all the other tools that we're building inside of the company are actually this really interesting, like, jump start to human creativity in a few ways. One of which was not surprising, one of which was very surprising. The one way it was not surprising is all perfumers, like all artists, almost never start with a completely blank page. There's always a reference, right? So a customer comes to us and they say, "Hey, look, here's our consumer. This is what we're trying to do with the brand. And oh, by the way, like we kind of like Tom Ford fragrances, that style." And we're like, "Got it. Okay, so you want to be in like that style, but man, we're going to make this totally custom and personal to you. But we're not going to make it in a, Aqua de Joe style. We're going to make it in this style, right?" That's just how it works. And also that's like how creativity works. You kind of get inspired by something. Um, and so what studios allowed us to do is start really quickly from like the right starting point that incorporates more than just some other product. It incorporates the brand, the consumer, the moment in time, the moment in culture. And so the starting places for the perfumer is super relevant and super tailored. And then our perfumers, and we've got three perfumers, two of which are master perfumers, they'll take it to really interesting creative places and they'll really sharpen it, right? And sometimes our customers just use Studio themselves and like they launch the scent directly from Studio, which is also pretty cool. So that's one way in which it wasn't surprising, which is there's this way of working, we've just kind of enhanced it. What's been super interesting is Studio actually comes up with new ways of making fragrances, right? New ingredient combinations, like surprising things. And the perfume, I mean, I've seen this so many times. A perfumer will look at a formula from Studio and be like, that can't work. And then they'll smell it and be like, whoa, I just learned something. And I think that's awesome, right? Because that is a moment of collaboration, right? That is a moment of like pushing creative boundaries, of like finding new things. And like perfumery is such a vast art practiced by such a tiny number of people, right? There's more astronauts alive than there are perfumers, right? It's crazy that like it's impossible for one perfumer to acquire all the knowledge of the history of the art. And it's also changing all the time as ingredients come and go. And so having a collaborator that has effectively like, increasing towards limitless knowledge, but not quite there yet, but increasing knowledge of like all of perfumery. It's amazing to just like it's like, if you're a writer having an LLM to like help you think through things. Like you're never gonna just like publish the stuff that comes right out of it, right? But it's an incredible creative partner. And the way in which it's been a creative partner in perfumery has been very interesting.
Yeah. It sort of confirms what we're saying is that it's the symbiosis of the two entities. It's human and machines together creating a better product as opposed to just human or machine.
What I think is really interesting in the domain of scent is like it's it's for people, right? Like language in a way doesn't always have to be for people or by people. Like you can imagine sending a fax of your medical records to another medical office and it's like it's being digested by a bureaucracy. So like language has all these like bureaucratic and kind of mechanical uses to it. You would never send the scent of a rose to a doctor's office, right? Like it's for somebody. Like scent is for us. It's only for us. It's for our enjoyment, and in some cases for our healing, right? And for lifting our moods or changing our moods. So and it's always like it's always by somebody. Like scent is always being sent by something living almost always. And like usually it's, the ones we experience in our culture, they're designed by a person to delight another person. Like it's so fundamentally human. And like how we make those scents, like, well, let's just try to find a way to make great scents and like increase the diversity of scent in the world. That's kind of I think where the tools come in is in a way almost democratizing access to great custom scents, right? And again, starting with brands, starting kind of with businesses, but we'll see where it goes.
Will flagship stores, retail stores of the future be remembered more than for how they felt and how they smelled than perhaps how they looked? Is scent becoming more of an emotional connection than perhaps visual or sound?
It's exactly what you have been looking into for years, which is it's so multisensory. And I think scent alone is very powerful, but scent as an anchor. And again, you can smell something, and if it's unique and if it's beautiful, you can smell it once and you will remember it for the rest of your life. And you smell it one more time 10, 20, 30 years later, you will be transported back. Or at the very least, you'll say, I've smelled that. I'm feeling some joy. I can't even put together why. And then you get one other sensory cue, like it was that store that I was in. And like, oh my God, that place was amazing. So scent has that power to anchor. And if you combine it with other things, it just becomes incredible. And so I think that's where we're going. And like, it doesn't just apply to stores, like applies to any brand experience, right? Like a brand is a living thing in many ways, and a trend is a living thing in many ways. And if you can begin to associate all the sensory attributes, and I think particularly scent, with that, you can anchor people's memories and recall to that in a way which is just not possible with things like image or sound or text.
Imagine we're in the future, 10 years from now, it's 2036. How will multisensory experiences look different than what we're used to today? And perhaps more importantly, what does that future smell like?
So it smells good. It smells subtle. It's not overdone, right? So nobody's blasting smell at you. Like it's not a 10 out of 10 in intensity, but like all the spaces that we enter in life that now have beautiful wafting music through it. And it's again like not too much, but just sets the tone. That wasn't true 100 years ago or 200 years ago, but now we kind of expect beauty, sound and beauty everywhere. We are going to expect scent and beauty everywhere. I think all of our spaces will have some identity, some scent identity, which I think will be incredible. And I think all brands will have scents associated with it. So I know the mountaintop exists. I know what it takes to get to the base camp of that mountain, and we're doing that, right? Like we are creating beautiful scents today that are in products that you can buy. And then I'm looking up the mountain and I'm like, that is the journey of a lifetime. And I'm so excited to keep going.
Oh, that's beautiful. Well, as always, I ask all of my guests, who is somebody that you admire that's creating a new version of tomorrow that you find deeply inspiring? I feel like some people might have said you, but we are very interested in who is your pick. It could be a brand, it could be a person in your own life, famous. Who's your pick?
It's pretty different from what I do day to day, but I was very fortunate to meet and to run into these people many years ago when they started on this journey. But I'm really inspired by a guy named Cathrason, and a team that he had around him that started a company called Verve Therapeutics. And what they've done is they've created the first drug that actually rewrites our genome to make it less likely for us to have heart disease. And, like, I just think, like, holy crap, like, shouldn't we do that for all the diseases that kill us? Like, for heart disease, for cancer, for diabetes, like, we the future that's possible of, like, basically improving our own body and making us more likely to live longer, healthier, happier lives, like, I think that's astounding. And, these folks that work on this stuff, they work in relative obscurity, sometimes for decades. And then, every once in a while, most of them fail, right? But every once in a while, it works. And like, I think what they're doing truly represents like a new horizon of human health, right? And therefore, like long lasting life and happiness. I think it's incredible what they're doing.
Thank you to my guest, Alex Wiltschko, founder and CEO of the olfactory intelligence platform Osmo. If you're a WGSN subscriber, look out for more trends at WGSN.com. And if you're not a subscriber, please come and discover our services. We'll be back with our next episode soon. In the meantime, you can catch the CEO of WGSN, Carla Buzzacchi, on our other podcast, Lives of Tomorrow. I'm your host, Cassandra Napoli. Be sure to follow and subscribe to this podcast, and see you next time.